Sometimes, the roads we take to escape the monotony of life lead us to the darkest and most terrifying places. This is the story of a couple who ventured into nature for a peaceful weekend, only to encounter a horror they could never have imagined. The Restaurant of the Dead serves as a reminder that danger can often hide behind a simple and harmless facade, and darkness can envelop us even in the brightest moments of life. The Restaurant of the Dead, a strange incident for a couple on the roads of Los Angeles. My wife Diana and I were heading to Los Angeles for a quiet and pleasant weekend. We left home around sunset. The roads in Los Angeles were a bit busy at first, but as we moved away from the crowded areas and into the surrounding mountains, the road became emptier and emptier. About half an hour before reaching our destination, Diana suggested we stop at a cozy restaurant for dinner before heading to the hotel. I agreed and started looking for restaurant signs, but the road was completely deserted, and there were no restaurants in sight. Occasionally, a car would pass by, but other than that, there was no sign of life. Suddenly, we came across a side road with an old, handwritten sign. It read, "Restaurant." The rest of the writing was faded. Hesitant but curious, I turned the car onto the dirt road. We drove about 2 kilometers, but there were no cars or people in sight. Finally, we arrived at an old wooden cabin that looked more like a ruin than a restaurant. The sound of a dog barking echoed in the air, mingling with the chirping of crickets, creating an eerie atmosphere. Diana had fallen asleep in the car. I woke her up and we got out. The night was clear and moonlit. The area around the cabin was surrounded by pine trees, and the smell of dampness and old wood filled the air. The wooden cabin, covered in moss, stood out in the darkness of the night. A small yellow light from a lamp above the entrance illuminated the area, and mosquitoes danced around it. We walked toward the cabin, and Diana followed behind me. I knocked on the door and called out, "Is anyone here? Hello?" The door creaked open, and an old man with a long beard and a scowling face appeared. In a heavy accent he said, "Hello, come in." I asked skeptically, "Excuse me, we saw the restaurant sign and—" The old man interrupted me and said, "You came to the right place. It's a bit late, but we still have food. Come in and close the door behind you." Honestly, I had a bad feeling, but I thought maybe I was overreacting. We stepped inside. The cabin had 2 dirty plastic tables and an old counter that looked like it belonged in a horror movie. The old man asked, "Do you like liver?" Though I wasn't thrilled, I said, "Sure, bring it." The old man went to a small fridge and pulled out a tray of liver. Then he went to the back of the cabin and started lighting charcoal. Diana was tired and drowsy, silently watching me. A strange smell filled the air, a mix of dampness, old wood, and something like rotting meat. The dim yellow light from the lamp above us was the only source of illumination in the cabin. The old man's voice came from the back. "Are you staying the night?" I replied loudly, "No, thank you. We'll eat and leave." A few minutes later, the food was ready. There was no soda, just a pitcher of water on the table. Reluctantly, we started eating. The food tasted odd, but hunger got the better of us, and we ate almost all of it. Just as we were finishing, I felt something under my teeth. I pulled it out and saw it was a broken fingernail. I felt sick and almost vomited. Diana stared at me with wide eyes, and her glass of water fell from her hand. I went to confront the old man, but Diana screamed, "What's this?" I turned around and saw Diana pulling something out from between the cracks in the wooden floor, a severed hand. Before I could reach the old man, Diana's scream drew me back to the cabin. The old man came out from the back, holding an axe. I shouted, "Diana, what's wrong?" Diana said in a trembling voice, "There's a dismembered body buried here." The old man swung the axe at me. I dodged, but it grazed my arm. I pushed him against the wall, grabbed Diana's hand, and we ran toward the car. We jumped in and I tried to start it, but it wouldn't turn on. The old man smashed the car window with his axe, and just as he was about to strike again, the car started. We sped away. A few seconds later, I felt an overwhelming drowsiness. I looked at Diana and saw she had passed out. I realized they had drugged the food. Before I could do anything, my eyes closed, and I lost consciousness. When I opened my eyes, I found myself back inside the cabin, tied to a chair with my mouth taped shut. I didn't know what had happened or where Diana was. A few moments later, the old man walked in with a sinister grin. He explained everything. He butchered men and used their meat for kebabs. He buried the rest of the bodies under the cabin and kept the women alive to abuse them. The old man pulled a rusty knife from his pocket and approached me. Before I could scream, he slit my throat, and blood gushed out like a fountain. The last thing I saw was the old man's insane face as he licked the bloody knife and put it back in his pocket. Then, my eyes closed forever. The story continues from Diana's perspective. When Diana opened her eyes, she found herself in the basement of the cabin. 2 other women were there, their skin pale and dark circles under their eyes. They communicated silently with Diana through their gazes. A few moments later, the old man came in and started untying Diana's hands. Just as he was about to untie her feet, Diana mustered all her strength and pushed him away. The old man calmly followed her. Diana tried to run, but the old man's vicious dog attacked her, biting her leg. The old man laughed and said, "This time, I'll give your leg to the dog for breakfast. Next time, I'll give him you if you try to escape again." He then grabbed Diana by the hair and dragged her back to the basement. When they reached the basement, Diana saw that the 2 other women had escaped. One of them grabbed an axe and attacked the old man. He fell to the ground, and the other woman locked the basement door. They pulled Diana outside and ran toward the car, but the car keys were with the old man. The dog was unchained and barking furiously. Suddenly, they heard the sound of a truck engine in the distance. They screamed, "Help! Help!" A middle-aged man got out of the truck and went into the cabin. Diana quickly explained the situation. The man said, "I only have room for 1 person. I'll take you first, then come back for the others." Diana got into the truck, but when she looked at the dashboard, she saw a photo of the old man and the middle-aged man standing together, smiling. She realized she had jumped out of the frying pan and into the fire. The man took her to his house and locked her in a windowless room. But Diana had her phone with her, and it had signal there. She quickly called the police and explained everything. The police arrived in time and arrested the man. The old man's body was also found, and Diana was rescued. However, her husband's body was never found. Moral conclusion: the restaurant of the dead reminds us never to blindly trust the seemingly calm and harmless appearances of places or people. Sometimes danger lurks where we least expect it. This story also shows that even in the darkest moments, hope and resilience can pave the way to survival. Most importantly, it warns us that escaping one problem might lead us into an even greater one. Therefore, vigilance and caution are always our best weapons against the unknown.